Hello everyone, it is that time of the week where I come out with guides on the decks that I played throughout the week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And if you happen to enjoy the show, feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. It would help me out a lot. And it would help you out a lot to hit the notification button because it's more of me, and everybody knows you want more of me. Anyway, jumping right into it, I am playing Mechathun Druid, or I played, and that is what the guide is going to be on. The guides are broken up into 3 parts, being overviews of the deck, changes I can make to the deck, and last but not least, a full-on guide for the decks. So, jumping into that in just a second, but if you have any comments on anything I say, or questions that I don't necessarily dive too deep into, feel free to ask me, and I will be more than happy to answer any other questions, because this is just a general overview. So anyway, just jumping right into it, here we go. So the deck as a whole is pretty simple. You want to gain a ton of armor so you don't die, draw a ton of cards to get to Mechathun, naturalize, and innervate, and just play those cards as soon as you possibly can in order to win the game before things get out of control. So that's basically the most general overview of the deck, but if I want to get a little bit more in depth before I get into the full deck guide, I will. So basically you have a lot of little synergies in this deck that make it very, very, very good. Like the fact that you have the Oaken summons and Wild Pyromancer. You play Wild Pyromancer first, you play Oaken summons, it could potentially bring out an Acolyte of Pain, and then Wild Pyromancer's ability activates, and then you end up drawing another card, gaining some armor. You have a ton of armor with Branching Paths, Oaken summons, Ferocious Howl, Earthen Scales, and Barkskin. All of those cards giving a ridiculous amount of armor. Like, ideally, if you draw Ferocious Howl on, like, 8 cards, 6 cards, assuming, okay, let's say you play on 3 and you have, like, 6 cards. 12 from Branching Paths, that's 24. 12 from Oaken Summons, that's... So basically you have 24 Branching Paths, 12 Oaken Summons, 12 Ferocious Howl. That alone, right there, is 48 armor. Not including Earthen Scales or Barkskin, which will probably give you another, in total, like 12-ish. So that's a lot of armor just right off the bat. That's about 60 armor. Potentially. Which means aggro decks cannot kill you. You also have Wild Pyromancer to deal with boards, you have spellstones, you have a naturalize, you have Moonfire and Pounce to kill things off that way. You just have a lot of removal as well. It's just overall, in my opinion, a very good deck into aggro because they can't close games out. It's decent into mid-range and control because they're probably not going to be able to kill you fast enough if you're able to maintain and use your mana efficiently enough. And it only really loses to other combo decks because it just depends on who gets the combos first. Then you have, obviously, Priest because they have Psychic Scream, which wrecks you a little bit, but I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, I'm going to jump into the changes to the deck. Actually, you know what? I'm not. There are really no changes you could make to the deck other than the fact that you could take out Earthen Scales and put in like a swipe or something to help you deal with aggro a little bit better, or mid-range or something. But Earthen Scales is cheaper and gives you armor, so it's still not that bad of an option. It's really personal preference on your part. Earthen Scales is a rare, Swipe is not, so it saves you some dust, a little bit of dust too, if that's something that's absolutely, like, crucial for you, so Swipe is definitely a decent option as well. So, just a quick, basically what's going to happen is I'm going to just go over your worst matchups, tell you why they are the way that they are, tell you why you might not need to worry about some of them, and then tell you why, just a general overview, like a more detailed overview of the deck, like a more in-depth guide. So, Warrior, you're pretty decent into. Warrior is very slow, it's not good at closing out the games, which means that you're more likely to get to Mechathun, so you don't really have to worry about that. Into Shaman, you're really just not good in even Shaman because of the fact that they get such a wide board so quickly and can restabilize. But that being said, you have decent removal and a lot of armor. So it's actually, even though Hearthstone Replay says some of these decks are bad, I'm actually going to go and tell you that they're wrong from my own personal experience and the way that I've been playing the deck. So even Shaman, in my opinion, just isn't fast enough to kill me in the time that they need to kill me in. I think that it has potential to, obviously, which means that it's not a great matchup, but I also don't think that it's a losing matchup. I'd say it's around 50-50, whoever can get the cards that they need more consistently. Next is Warlock. A lot of the Warlock decks are good into you because of the fact that they have the thing that can change a minion in your hand, which could actually absolutely just wreck you. But that being said, I don't think it's that bad because some control warlocks don't play that and they're slow. Cube warlocks are not necessarily slow, but do give you a lot of time and don't really make you interact with anything. Zoo warlock, you can kill off their minions fairly easily and build up your combo. And even warlock, same thing as control warlock. It's just slow, and if they don't get the card to change a minion in your hand, you're fine. And also, if they change a minion in your hand and it's like a Wild Pyromancer, that doesn't matter because of the fact that you don't need to wipe their board. And if it's on like an Acolyte of Pain, sure, you lose like 3 draw cards, but you have other ways of drawing cards, so it's actually not that big of a deal. Then you go into Rogue. I don't think that Rogue is that bad of a matchup, although they do say that Odd Rogue is not good for you. And to that I reply, yeah, I can see that. The fact that they don't rely on minions as much, so even if you board wipe, they still have the weapon to kill you with, and charges, and some pretty durable minions just all around. That could be a little bit rough if they get out like a good Edwin, or they're able to pump up their Hench Clan Thug a couple of times before you're able to remove them. And if they do that, you have a couple of single target removal spells, so it's not the worst thing that could have ever happened, but it's just... It's not good. It's not a great matchup, but it's not terrible either. I would say that it's around 50% as well. Like a lot of these aggro decks, I think that the only reason why the win rates are as low as they are is because people who don't know how to play the deck very well are trying to play the deck and lose control of the board and just overall lose the game off of it. So I think that it's not that big of a deal. Now, Secret Odd Mage is abysmal for you. You lose the game into Odd Secret Mage. Unless there is a way that you could win, and that's if you keep an extra, like, Innervate, if you save it, because if they play Counterspell at the very end, you lose the game, basically. But if you save, like, a Counterspell, or if you save an Innervate to bait out the Counterspell that they play at the end of the game, you can be fine. Also, the fact that they have Explosive Ruins can kill off your Wild Pyromancer immediately, which keeps you from dealing with their board presence, because Odd Secret Mage actually gets some pretty decent minions on the board that you have to deal with. So, losing Wild Pyromancer could be bad. Losing an Auctioneer on turn 6, which is a huge draw power for you, has huge draw power for you. Losing that to Explosive Runes could be bad as well. So it's just a terrible matchup overall. This is one of the few like abysmal matchups. Next, you have other Druid decks, like mostly just Spiteful Druid. Obliterates you. There's really no chance. They just get out really, really high value minions on turn 7, and you need like turn 10 in order to win. And you help them ramp up, so they could potentially get it sooner if you play Biology Project. It's just not good, man. Hunters, Death Rattle Hunter can cheese you sooner than you can cheese them. And if you do wipe the board, their Death Rattles give them minions on top of that, which means that they can still deal damage to you and be a nuisance. Which means that it's not a good matchup. However, I disagree with the Secret Hunter being 37.9%. I think that since you're not actually attacking ever with your cards, you don't need to worry about the secrets. And the fact that they have Spellstone, if you save Wild Pyromancer for when they play their Spellstone, you control the board very well. And sure, they have Rexar to help them deal with the board later on and build minions, but at that point you're close to your combo, and I just don't think it's that bad of a matchup. A lot of these matchups I played into, I just didn't lose to. Paladin, not that bad of a matchup. Just in general, you wipe all their little minions off the board, and then you win. Yeah, your OTK, you get to it sooner than their OTK. That's pretty much it. You just beat them out because their minions are too small, and you can kill them with Wild Pyromancer. And if you give your Wild Pyromancer Bark Skin, you can pump it up so that he can't kill it, and then you can just destroy the next set of little 1/1s. Also, since they're all 1/1s, if you play the Acolyte of Pain without the Wild Pyromancer, you can still draw 3 cards because of the fact that all of the things are super small and you trade into them. Your worst matchups overall, other than, well, Mage, just because of the Secret Odd Mage, is Priest. I'm actually looking at the Secret Mage right now, and Odd Mage is good for you because it's a lot slower, same with Freeze and Big Spell Mage, but it's the Secret Odd Mage specifically, the one with secrets, that's bad. Priest overall wrecks you just because of the fact that they run Psychic Scream. Like, just looking at the list of decks right here, Mechathun Priest runs Psychic Scream, Combo Priest runs Psychic Scream, Clone Priest runs Psychic Scream, Control Priest runs Psychic Scream. they all run Psychic Scream, putting a minion back in your deck, if not more, and then you just can't actually kill off your own minions and win the game. I lost one because he Psychic Screamed stuff back into my board, and instead of killing my own minion, because I thought it would be easy enough to after I played the Primordial Drake he gave me, I Spellstone one of his big minions so I wouldn't die, rather than using it on my Primordial Drake, or just trading it into his big thing and killing it. Because I wasn't thinking. Ugh, I was upset by that one. That loss kind of tilted me. And that would change my win rate a little bit, make it a little bit more positive. But as it stands right now, it's at like a 60% win rate. It would be at like a 62 or so with this extra win. But, you know, live and learn. So just, if you're playing against the priest, save some removal in your hand. That way, if they Psychic Scream you, you have a way of getting back into the game. Rather than just losing. So anyway, that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide. I actually really enjoyed this deck. I think because of the fact that it's cheap, only needs one legendary, like one epic, and the fact that it's just an overall strong deck in general, I think. It's pretty good in aggro and mid-range and control as well. I think that I would recommend this deck quite heavily, and I might actually play it more just for funsies. Rather than switching to another budget deck, I might just play more Mechathun Druid because I genuinely enjoy this deck quite a bit. So this one might be a 2-week deck. Just because, like, I don't want to, kind of, but at the same time I really do because I really like the deck. And I could come out with, instead of like a guide video, like a better video. Potentially a better guide video, more in-depth, in-depth than Mulligans. Mulligans, of course! I can't believe I keep forgetting this. I always leave those for the end. But into a lot of matchups, keeping Wild Pyromancer into aggro is good. Keeping into control is bad. Keeping as much card draw as possible is always good. Keeping Ferocious Howl is pretty solid. Branching Paths is okay. You want to get these heavy cost cards out of the way as soon as possible. That way you can combo off with the cheap stuff later when you have the Auctioneer to help you draw more cards. And if you use your bigger stuff like Ferocious Howl, Branching Paths, and Oaken Summons early, you'll be less likely to be forced to use them later and stall out your win condition by like a turn or two. So trying to use it as efficiently as possible is good. Keeping a Spellstone can be good as well into some matchups, like Odd Rogue, to kill off something early that they play. But yeah, other than that, just keeping the bigger stuff to get it out early, Wild Pyromancer into aggro is the general keep. So yeah, I really like this deck. I generally think that I'm going to continue to play it, just overall. So yeah, I made up my mind. I will actually play it more. I'll play it for one more week because I just genuinely like the deck, and I've been ranting on too long, but I just wanted to warn you that it's coming, and that at the end of the week I may not come out with another guide, or I might come out with a more detailed guide, or I'll just rant about something random. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I enjoyed this deck a ton, and see ya.